Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football Deal. Late Sunday night, I would say some really intriguing news for us Michigan fans as it pertains to the transfer portal. As former UMass and Arizona wide receiver Anthony Simpson committing to Michigan. Now, look, you dive into Anthony Simpson. I think the first thing you want to address here is all right, what happened in 2024 leaving the program at UMass? Look, any concerns that you have about this kid off the field? One, I don't comment on stuff I don't know about, but more importantly, Dill, Sherrone Moore is going to do his homework on guys. He's not going to bring in guys that he doesn't think is going to benefit the locker room. But I think more importantly, look, Coach Kasula, who's coaching our tight ends, was his offensive coordinator at UMass in 2023, knows him quite well. He was the leading receiver for UMass in 2023. Coach Kasula knows him too. And so any of those concerns that you might have, at least for my outsider looking in at the situation, kind of gets mitigated. Now you dive into Anthony Simpson, the football player. The thing that stands out to me during his time at UMass, specifically in 2023, two different things. One, he had 97 targets on the year. With also 11 carries. What does that tell me, especially with Coach Kasula, who was calling the offense? Look, they wanted to get the football into this kid's hands in any which way. And then you look at 483 yards after the catch. That tells me he's a difference maker with the football in his hands. And I think a lot of Michigan fans would probably agree with this. Look, we probably didn't have enough difference makers on the outside, especially when they had the football in their hands. We want some easy stuff to get to our pass catchers and let them do the rest. I think Anthony Simpson can be a guy that can do that. Primarily worked in the slot at UMass in 2023. I'm expecting him to do that at Michigan in the 2025 season. Want to get a little bit more into Anthony Simpson before we get into it. As always, just want to say thank you to you guys and to the Michigan fans. It's been a blast, covering the recruiting trail, talking the transfer portal. The amount of support the Michigan fans have shown the boys over the last couple of weeks has been amazing. Can't thank you guys enough. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Dill, when we got the buzz that Michigan was going after Anthony Simpson, look, I at least I can't speak for you, but I don't watch too much UMass on my Saturdays. Kind of had to dive back in on this kid. I know you've watched a little bit of him. What's he bringing to this Michigan offense?
I mean, you kind of said it, like a very premier weapon for this UMass team in 2023. Yeah. And frankly, if he went into the portal after the 2023 season, Agreed. I think the rankings look a little bit different because I look at that level of production, had a big game against Auburn. I think he went for 489, like able to create explosive plays on big name teams. That's probably always something I go to look for when I look at these guys who are kind of bumping up big from the not FCS ranks, obviously.
G5 to Power 4, yeah.
Something not like Power 4 football. I always look to see if they can produce against those teams. Obviously, he was able to do it against Auburn. But you said it, like just adding a little bit more of that dynamic playmaking ability. I think we all kind of wanted Samaj Morgan to be that guy last year. And again, I'm not like out on Samaj Morgan by any stretch of the imagination. Like there was no one was going to be a dynamic playmaker in that offense they had cooking last year. But you certainly need this type of guy where you kind of said it. You can get something easy, force teams to at least acknowledge your ability to make plays in space. And that's just something Michigan always have.
Yeah, and speaking on, because that is what's happening here, is Anthony Simpson's going to come in and probably compete with Samaj Morgan for that slot wide receiver spot. Look, you said it. You're not out on Samaj Morgan. I'm not out on him either. But I do think you probably want a little bit more polish at that position. As athletic and juiced up as Samaj Morgan is, the polish as an actual wide receiver that can separate, sit it down in zone coverage, be presentable to the quarterback is probably still developing. That's one of the things that kind of pops when you turn on Anthony Simpson. He is really good with the football in his hands. That's the thing that excites me the most about what he brings to Michigan. But the second thing is he's he's tough as nails catching over the middle of the field. That's something you like, especially from a slot wide receiver. Secondly, he knows how to present himself to the quarterback. Whether it's man coverage, I can separate. If it's zone coverage, I'm going to find a throwing window and be presentable. If we're going to start Bryce Underwood, who's a true freshman quarterback, you want a veteran wide receiver who can get open for him. And I think Anthony Simpson can be that guy.
One addition he probably has that we haven't yet seen from Samaj Morgan is the ability to take the top off a little bit. That was one thing while working out the slot. did have the ability to get over the top, make big plays through the air. Another thing that Michigan was painfully weak at doing last year. So again, like give some Samaj Morgan vibes, but a little bit more proven, and maybe does have that extra gear down the field that I don't think we've seen yet from Samaj Morgan.
There's some juice to this kid. So you two different conversations you got to have. One, as a Michigan fan, it's hard not to be a little bit disappointed in terms of what Michigan has done recruiting wide receivers out of the transfer portal. Yeah, I think that's a fact, but I also think you have to recognize that this Michigan offense in 2024, from a passing attack standpoint, it was probably the worst of the Power Four, right? The wide receivers are going to come, but I do think there needs to be a little bit of proof of concept. You know, Michigan's in a tough spot, even with a guy like Bryce Underwood. He's a true freshman, right? He's not necessarily a proven commodity. We all think he's going to be a stud. I'm pretty dang confident he's going to be one. But there's not necessarily that proof of concept. You know, right now there's wide receivers that are looking at this Michigan team and saying, if I got 1 or 2 years of eligibility, is this the program I want to hitch my wagon to be a productive wide receiver? Right now, it's probably not. And it's hard to fault those wide receivers still, as we expect with Chip Lindsey and Bryce Underwood, this Michigan passing attack to take a massive step forward, night and day difference from the 2024 year. That's when I think the wide receivers are going to come to Michigan. You know, when Bryce Underwood has a very good season for Michigan in the 2025 season, and Michigan wants to go back out there and recruit high school kids at the wide receiver position or recruit transfer portal guys at the wide receiver spot, once you have that proof of concept, once you are showing Michigan is an offense that's going to push the ball down the field, which we just didn't do in 2024, I do think the wide receivers will start coming to this program.
And I think it was a little bit of wishful thinking on a lot of Michigan fans' part, certainly on my part. Like,
yes,
well, we did land Bryce Underwood. That's immediately going to kind of open the floodgates. Like, you kind of said it. Like, as much as there is hyper talent in Bryce Underwood, you bring in a new offensive coordinator, you probably still do need to prove it on the field, because we even heard some of these rumblings, frankly, last year in terms of opening it up and trying to be a little bit more aggressive.
That was a lie.
And it was the biggest lie I think that some football fans have ever been told. I think you're right. You do probably, and I'd be, frankly, if I'm like an Eric Singleton, I'm like that guy. I'm like looking, NIL matters in my recruitment, but getting me to the NFL in a prime draft pick probably matters just as much, if not more. And right now, Michigan hasn't been able to prove that they can do that for wide receivers. So I think you're right. At the end of the day, this is going to be a big year for everyone, for this Michigan program, to be able to say, like, look, we can be tough. We can develop linemen. We can develop defenders, but also we can develop skill players at the level that 5-star.
Yeah, it's no secret. Hey, why does Ohio State have so much success recruiting the wide receiver? Because they got a proof of concept that you go to Ohio State, we're going to have a good passing attack, and we're going to get the wide receivers involved. Michigan, you got to show it first. And look, if Bryce Underwood plays the way we all expect him to play, and Chip Lindsey changes this offense the way we expect, look, the wide receivers, the pass catchers are going to come. But you probably got to put a little bit of proof of concept on the football field in 2025. Next conversation, then we'll wind it down here, Dill. Okay, we know Michigan's going to run a lot of 12 personnel, especially with what we think are some really good tight ends headlined by Marlon Klein and Hogan Hansen. But in those 3 wide receiver sets, who do you think are the starting wide receivers for Michigan to start the 2025 season?
My guess is going to be Freddie.
Yep.
Donovan. And then at the slot, I still think it's me, Samaj Morgan. I'll go with
disagree. So I got Freddie Moore and Donovan McCulley as your boundary wide receivers. I think I'm a buyer on Freddie Moore going into 2025.
Honestly, that Alabama game I find very exciting.
I'm in on it.
It's just one thing, but like
yes. I got Anthony Simpson. So I think he's a little bit more developed as a wide receiver. You know, he's spent more time at the collegiate level. He's been more productive, and I think there's a little bit, for lack of a better term, I hate to use the word again, polish. You know, he knows how to get open. He's got a lot of juice after the catch. I think he might be the guy that you want to get the football to the most in terms of dangerous after the catch. But it's hard to ignore other guys, right? Andrew Marsh coming in as a true freshman. 10,
that is the X factor, because Michigan hasn't really gotten a guy in from the wideout ranks like him since Donovan.
And Andrew Marsh, well, I'll say about him coming out of high school, he's ready. Like, he knows how to run his routes. He knows how to create separation, along with being a very good athlete. There are some wide receivers coming out of high school that they might be freaky athletes, but maybe not the best football players yet. I was always impressed with Andrew Marsh and how he could run routes and create separation at the high school level. Kenny Bell, Channing Goodwin. Like, there are some other names. I think at the very least, like, look, is Anthony Simpson going to come in and catch for over 1,000 yards? No, probably not. It's another playmaker added to the room at a position where we needed playmakers and kind of just creating a little bit more competitive depth, which we need. We'll see what Michigan does. And Dill, you might see Michigan after the spring practice window kind of, hey, let's evaluate where Andrew Marsh is. Let's evaluate where some of these wide receivers are, like Freddie Moore and Samaj Morgan, in an offense that actually throws the football down the field. And then we'll see if we need to go out and add another wide receiver. We'll close it out there. Appreciate you guys rocking with it. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel, and we'll talk to y'all later.